good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to Smashing English. Before we start this video, be sure to subscribe because we make new videos all the time and I don't want you to miss any. So with that said, let's get on with the video. Today we have a challenge for you.
We are going to play you 7 clips from native speakers from all around the UK.
All with very different accents.
Then we'll ask you a few questions just to see how well you understood what they were talking about.
This is great practice to see how good your ear really is when it comes to understanding English in all its forms.
Make sure to leave a comment down below with the accent that you found the most difficult.
Okay, let's meet Pete. That rhymes. Let's meet Pete. He's going to tell you where he's from and what accent he has. Take it away, Pete!
Hello, my name is Pete and I'm from Scotland. Originally I was born in Edinburgh and then I grew up a little bit in Oxfordshire, which is in England, and then I grew up for a while in Aberdeen as well, or just south of Aberdeen. And I've just done my 5th year in Liverpool as well. So I'd say my accent's a bit kind of mongrelly, but it's definitely Scottish.
So, the lovely Pete is now going to read a short section from a book. So listen out and see how much you can understand.
I first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. I'd just gotten over a serious illness that I won't bother to talk about, except that it had something to do with the miserably weary split up and my feeling that everything was dead. With the coming of Dean Moriarty began the part of my life you could call my life on the road.
Okay, so what do you think that passage was about? Is it A, a man called Dean talking about his past and his dead pets? Is it B, a man telling the story of how he met a man called Dean after a tough period in his life? Or is it C, Dean's wife recovering from a serious illness and going out on the road? It was B! Okay, so take a listen again, but this time I want you to pay attention to the way Pete says the I sound. It's much wider than how I would say it, because I would do I, but when Pete says it, it's almost like an ah sound. Ah, it's a really wide sound, so listen out for that. Also pay attention to the letter O. It's a lot more forward, you know, if you listen to the way he says road, road. It's very forward rather than road, road. And overall with the Scottish accent, the shifting vowels and consonants, it takes a bit of time to get used to it. So watch a TV programme like Outlander, listen to people like James McAvoy, and you will be understanding all Scottish accents in no time. Let's watch that little passage again, but this time with subtitles.
I first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. I'd just gotten over a serious illness that I won't bother to talk about, except that it had something to do with the miserably weary split up and my feeling that everything was dead. With the coming of Dean Moriarty began the part of my life you could call my life on the road.
Let's travel to London, shall we? So, London town.
But first, I must tell you about something very exciting. I have to tell you about this really good deal. So if you're watching this video, chances are you're learning English, right? And you probably know that the best way to learn English is by talking and learning from a native speaker. Well, I recently tried the LINGODA language sprint and honestly, it's brilliant. The LINGODA language sprint is an online intensive language course where students are challenged to consistently take language classes for 3 months straight. If the student attends all the classes, LINGODA will refund up to 100% of the course fee. 100%. They are the #1 online trusted learning school. More than 40,000 people have participated in previous language sprints and they love it because it really boosts learning in such a short period of time. Honestly, I think if you want to see a real result, challenge yourself to 3 months of language learning. 50 or 100% cashback is waiting for you at the finish line if you attend all the classes. I mean,
Okay, here's the important stuff. You can sign up until the 15th of October.
And the sprint course starts on the 31st of October. You have the super sprint where you attend 30 classes a month for 3 months and then you get 100% cashback. Or you've got the sprint where if you attend 15 classes a month for 3 months, you get 50% cashback. You can learn English, German, French, Spanish and business English. Both plans require a €49 deposit deposit, and each plan will be paid in 3 monthly instalments. If you sign up with my link, which is down in the description, and if you use the voucher code, you'll get a €20 discount on the deposit. I did an intensive 5-day learning challenge for French, and honestly, I saw results after the first day. I could 100% imagine doing it for 90 days, just like with this sprint. I think it would be a challenge, but I can't even imagine where my French level would be if I did consistent classes for 90 days. The results would just go. Honestly, consistently learning with live classes is better than any grammar book, any YouTube video. I mean, I know I'm amazing at making YouTube videos, but actually having a native speaker teach you English for 90 days, nothing really beats that. And what's great about Lingoda is you have flexible learning hours. The classes are available 24/7. You have qualified native speaking teachers, and you have small group classes and an interactive curriculum, all taught on Zoom. Don't forget to check out the terms and conditions and their FAQ session before joining. So go, go, go! Everything you need is in the description down below.
Now, where were we? Oh yes! London! London! Meet Beth. She's going to tell you where she's from and what accent she has. Take it away, Beth.
Hello, my name is Beth. I was born in a town called Bedford, which is just north of London. I grew up in a little town called East Grinstead by Gatwick Airport, and I've lived in London for the last couple of years.
Beth is going to read us a lovely little section from a book. Some of the factors I want you to listen out for are the dropped H and the dropped T. Also, the transformation of the TH sound into an F. So for example, the sentence, think of heavy butter, would be something like, think of heavy butter. Let's just let Beth do it, because I clearly can't.
Josie could do many tricks. She could balance a pencil on the end of her finger. She could pick her nose without anyone seeing. She could tickle the cat until it said, stop it! But her best trick happened at 10:30 one Friday morning. It was a trick that changed her life. It happened in the school playground when Billy Brand got his head stuck in the school railings. His teacher, Mrs. Jones, came to have a look. It was no good. Billy Brand's head would not budge.
The question is, when did her best trick happen? A, when she was feeling flirty on a Friday morning. B, when her hand was hurting on a Friday morning. Or C, at 10:30 on a Friday morning. Now, this is what Laura meant when she said that the TH sound turns into an F. 10:30. 10:30 a.m. I always get thirsty at 10:30 a.m. Now, this is something that is very common with a Cockney accent. Also, listen out for how she says the word playground. Instead of the ow sound, ow, she says playground. So, how now, brown cow, becomes how now, brown cow.
Josie could do many tricks. She could balance a pencil on the end of her finger. She could pick her nose without anyone seeing. She could tickle the cat until it said, stop it! But her best trick happened at 10:30 one Friday morning. It was a trick that changed her life. It happened in the school playground when Billy Brand got his head stuck in the school railings. His teacher, Mrs. Jones, came to have a look. It was no good. Billy Brand's head would not budge.
Next, let's move over to the Black Country, my favourite.
If you've seen any of the videos on this channel about the Peaky Blinders, then you'll be very familiar with this area. Let me introduce you to Jack, and he's going to tell you where he's from.
Hello everyone, I'm Jack, nice to meet you, and like Laura, I am from the Black Country, so I predominantly have a Black Country accent.
Okay, now Jack is going to read a little section from a book. Really listen out for the sound becoming oo.
The soldier found himself facing a paper castle with glass swans floating around it on a little glass lake. But the loveliest toy of all was a little paper ballerina with a pink muslin skirt standing at the castle door. A big sequin twinkled on her blue sash. The little dancer held her arms above her head and lifted her leg behind her so that it was hidden.
Okay, how was the castle described? Was it A, A paper castle with a glass lake around it. B, a blue castle with a pink door. Or C, a blue sequined castle with glass walls. It was A!
We're going to play you the clip one more time, and I really want you to listen out for how mushy the accent can be. Jack does a really good job of demonstrating how a lot of accents in the UK, the words just mush together and almost sound like one big word. If you listen out for the sentence behind her so that it was hidden, he almost says behind her rather than behind her, behind her. That's like one word. Behind her, behind her. Behind her, so that it was hidden. They mush together. So it's really good practice listening to an accent like this so that you can really practice listening to how those words link together. Let's hear it again with subtitles.
The soldier found himself facing a paper castle with glass swans floating around it on a little glass lake. But the loveliest toy of all was a little paper ballerina with a pink muslin skirt standing at the castle door. A big sequin twinkled on her blue sash. The little dancer held her arms above her head and lifted her leg behind her so that it was hidden.
Next, let's travel up north. Meet my good friend Dan. Take it away, Dan.
Hello friends, I am Dan Henry and I'm from Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, and I would say that my accent is quite typical of that area. So I'd say it's quite a typical West Yorkshire accent, although if you do visit Yorkshire there are people with broader accents than mine. But, you know, this is what you're getting.
Oh, Yorkshire, beautiful Yorkshire. Let's hear what Dan has to read for us.
The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. The desert was the apotheosis of all deserts, huge, standing to the sky for what might have been parsecs in all directions. White, blinding, waterless, without features save for the faint cloudy haze of the mountains which sketched themselves on the horizon, and the devil grass which brought sweet dreams, nightmares, death.
Yorkshire accents are so warm and lovely. I love them. Now, when you listen again, I want you to listen out for how Dan stretches the vowels. He says parsecs and blinding and cloudy haze. And these stretchy vowels are such a defining feature of a Yorkshire accent that a lot of the time when British people hear Yorkshire, they'll do a terrible Yorkshire. So if you want to understand this accent, be ready for some elongated vowels. Let's hear it again with subtitles.
The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. The desert was the apotheosis of all deserts, huge, standing to the sky for what might have been parsecs in all directions. White, blinding, waterless, without features save for the faint cloudy haze of the mountains which sketched themselves on the horizon, and the devil grass which brought sweet dreams, nightmares, death.
Let's move on and go even further north to Lauren.
Hello, my name is Lauren. I'm originally from Sunderland in the northeast of England, so I primarily have a Sunderland or Mackem accent. However, I have been living in Newcastle, another major city in the northeast, for around about a year, so I do have a few sneaky Geordie sounds in there. Geordie being the native accent of people from Newcastle.
As you can probably hear, Mackem has a very distinct rhythm. It's very bouncy, so have a listen and see how much you can understand.
For the last half hour, I'd seen nothing but miles and miles of snow. Oh, wow. It was so white. It was cool the way the snow sparkled in the sunlight. It made us think of Christmas carols. I couldn't get Winter Wonderland out of me head, and it was driving us crazy. I watched the giant footprints as we flew. How big would an abominable snowman's footprints be?
What did the snow make them think of? A. Christmas carols. B. Sparkling sunlight. Or C. Giant footprints in the zoo. The answer is A.
Did you hear that really gorgeous rhythm and how words with hard consonants in the middle seem to jump? For example, winter is like winter. Seems to have a little in the middle and then jump to the next sound. Winter, water, sparkled. It's like we're cutting out that hard consonant sound and going straight to the next one. So get used to hearing that rhythm and you should understand a lot more. Let's hear it again with subtitles.
For the last half hour, I'd seen nothing but miles and miles of snow. Oh, wow. It was so white. It was cool the way the snow sparkled in the sunlight. It made us think of Christmas carols. I couldn't get Winter Wonderland out of my head, and it was driving us crazy. I watched the giant footprints as we flew. How big would an abominable snowman's footprints be?
I'd love to go to Wales next. Wouldn't you? Let's meet Saskia.
Hello, my name's Saskia and I'm from South Wales in the United Kingdom, more specifically Cardiff. I do understand where some people think waste is wrong, and after careful reflection I tend to agree, but I've been brought up to think very differently. Mammy always said that only peasants and grubby little worker-ants worried about such trivial things.
Okay, who worries about such trivial things? A. Grubby little water rats. B. Grubby little working rats. Or C. Grubby little worker ants. The answer is C.
The reason why this one is so hard is because of the R. South Walians, people from the south of Wales, tend to roll their R's quite a bit. So worker ants turns into worker ants, which can be confusing for people outside of the UK. So when listening to people from Wales, especially in the south, be on the lookout for the rolled R. You'll hear these when the R comes before a vowel or when it's a linking sound. So let's listen again with subtitles. I love subtitles.
I do understand where some people think waste is wrong, and after careful reflection I tend to agree, but I've been brought up to think very differently. Mammy always said that only peasants and grubby little worker-ants worried about such trivial things.
Okay, finally, let's go to Liverpool. Let's meet another Pete. Not the Pete from before, this is a different Pete.
The accent you're hearing currently is a Liverpudlian one. I think mine in particular is a little bit of a hybrid. So I'm from Liverpool, my mum is from Liverpool, and I grew up in Liverpool, but my dad and his entire side of the family are all from London, and a few bits of Irish as well. My grandparents are Irish.
Take it away, Pete!
There were many, too, who hated him. Hated him for being young, for being excellent, for having made their victories look paltry and weak. Enda saw it first in their faces when he passed them in the corridors. Then he began to notice that some boys would get up in a group and move to another table if he sat near them in the commander's mess. And there began to be elbows that accidentally jostled him in the game room, feet that got entangled with his when he walked in and out of the gym, spittle and wads of wet paper that struck him from behind as he jogged through the corridors. They couldn't beat him in the battle room and knew it, so instead they would attack him where it was safe, where he was not a giant but just a little boy.
So, why did they hate him? A, for being young and excellent. B, for tripping them up. Whoa! Or C, for throwing wads of wet paper at them. The answer is A.
In this short section of the book, Pete said, attack him where it was safe. And this is a really nice sentence to look at to help understand the Scouse accent. We can hear the distinct k sound that a lot of people from Liverpool use. Instead of saying attack, they'll say attack with that sound. Also, you can hear just a hint of a tapped R linking the where to the it, wear it. A little bit of a wear it, like in South Wales or Black Country. These tapped R's do come up around the UK. So listen again, listen for those two features, and that might just help you understand a little bit more.
There were many, too, who hated him. Hated him for being young, for being excellent, for having made their victories look paltry and weak. Enda saw it first in their faces when he passed them in the corridors. Then he began to notice that some boys would get up in a group and move to another table if he sat near them in the commander's mess. And there began to be elbows that accidentally jostled him in the game room, feet that got entangled with his when he walked in and out of the gym, spittle and wads of wet paper that struck him from behind as he jogged through the corridors. They couldn't beat him in the battle room and knew it, so instead they would attack him where it was safe, where he was not a giant but just a little boy.
And that's about it. So let us know down in the comments how many you got right. Don't be embarrassed, I got 1.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the link in the description to learn more about LINGODA.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, the link is there.
And if you want a one-on-one online English lesson with either of us, the link for that is down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.